speak inside Parliament, or there are cases which are applied against him. He gave he gave an instance of himself also, that there were multiple criminally liable cases which shouldn't have been filed, but they were filed against him. I think.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I am Anand Narasimhan. Ladies and gentlemen, Congress MP from Wayanad, Rahul Gandhi, continues his tirade on foreign soil, which many are alleging, including the BJP, is not just against the current establishment run by the BJP and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, but it is also detrimental to Bharat. One of the attacks that Rahul Gandhi has now waged is against the RSS. He has been sharp against not just RSS, but also the principles of RSS. He has questioned RSS peg of Hindutva and RSS's Rashtra Niti, or its dreams of a Hindu Rashtra. The definition of Hindu as per the RSS is not with religious contours, but with the geographical contours of anybody and everybody who believes this is their motherland, this is the land of their ancestors, they are Hindu, and the culture that is inclusive, that talks about samrasta or samanvaya or inclusion or accepting all forms of thought, truly democratic in that sense, that's the champion, that's what RSS wants to champion. But Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and of course there are those who have been targeting the RSS for a while, seem to echo the thought that the RSS's brand of Hindutva mirrors Hitler's Nazism or Mussolini's fascism, and that's why they are the one and the same, or even the Muslim Brotherhood, which talks about one big ummah. So they are nothing but mirrors of each other. This is what has been the criticism, and this has once again been repeated by Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Somewhere there are experts who believe that he is echoing the thoughts of the ultra-left, the Maoists back home here in India, or those who are championing the left cause abroad, who are stitching this narrative against the seemingly right of centre RSS. Let's listen into what Mr. Rahul Gandhi had to say, and then we are hopeful that top RSS voice Sri Ram Madhav will be live with us.
But the nature of the democratic contest in India has completely changed. And the reason it's changed is because one organization called the RSS, fundamentalist fascist organization, has basically captured pretty much all of India's institutions.
One organization, fundamentalist, fascist organization, has captured all of India's institutions. This is not the first time Rahul Gandhi has attacked the RSS. There have been several instances where he's hit out at the Sangh. Let's just outline a few. 7th of February, speaking in the Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi targeted the centre over the Agniveer scheme and claimed that senior officers said that the scheme came from the RSS and the Home Ministry and not from the army. 9th of January, during his Bharat Jodo Yatra in Ambala, Rahul Gandhi said RSS members are the 21st century Kauravas. He said they wear khaki half pants, they carry lathi in hand and hold shakhas. Rahul also said that India's 2-3 billionaires are standing with the Kauravas. Speaking at a press conference during the Bharat Jodo Yatra in Hoshiarpur in Punjab on the 17th of Jan 2023, Rahul Gandhi accused the BJP and the RSS of capturing all institutions in the country. At a press conference in Delhi on the 31st of December 2022, Rahul Gandhi said he wants the BJP and RSS to aggressively attack them because it would increase the ideological awareness of the Congress party. Taking a jibe at them, he referred to the BJP and RSS as their Sangh. December 2024, after the Bharat Jodo Yatra entered Delhi, Rahul Gandhi said his yatra was against fear, hatred, unemployment and inflation. He said the RSS spreads fear and then they convert it into hatred. Further escalating attack on RSS, Rahul Gandhi on the 14th of December in Dausa, Rajasthan said, "You will not find a woman in their organization. The RSS does not contain any women. They suppress women and they do not allow women to enter their organization." On September 5th, 2022, at Menghai Par Halla Bolo rally in Delhi's Ramlila Maidan, Rahul Gandhi said the BJP and the RSS divide the country by developing fear and that only two corporate people are getting the benefit of hatred and fear. In Shillong, in 2018, Rahul Gandhi said that the RSS disempowers women and doesn't even have a single one in their leadership position. Rahul Gandhi said that pictures of Mahatma Gandhi women could be seen on either side of the freedom fighter, but Mohan Bhagwat or Sarsang Chalak of the RSS are photographed alone or with men. Now, there is one in August 15th, 2017, August 2017 also, where he said that the attack on his convoy in Gujarat was carried out by those by the BJP and RSS and called it their way of politics. Ram Madhavji is live with us, so let's go straight across to him. Namaste and Jai Hind, Ram Madhavji. Thank you very, very much for your time. You heard Rahul Gandhi, he's echoing the same line, saying the same thing since 2018 downwards till 2023 and now on foreign soil. He's called the RSS fascist fundamentalists, likened them to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Anand, as you rightly said, Rahul Gandhi at 52 lacks sagacity and political maturity. It is unfortunate for Congress party, and probably BJP is very fortunate to have in him the leader of the opposition. So what he said at Cambridge or during his travels in London is nothing new. He has been saying these things for many years now. He is so much obsessed with the RSS that even in his dream, he only probably sees the RSS. He has been making such wild allegations, such blasphemous comments about RSS for many years now. The end of it is today he is himself admitting that the whole country is behind the RSS and I am left to go and cry my crybaby face I have to show in London. Because in India, nobody is there to listen to me, respect my views on RSS. I must tell you, Anand, here that probably privately, many in Congress also would not agree with him about his assessment or his understanding of the RSS. Right from Indira Gandhi to Pranab Da recently, many people have had interactions with RSS. They have had their views. Indira Gandhi on the floor of the parliament had clearly said of Golwalkar Guruji that he was a great personality and he had a great place in the life of the nation. She paid her rich tributes to Golwalkar in the parliament when he passed away in 1973. From there to Pranab Mukherjee attending an RSS function in Nagpur a couple of years back, calling the chief of RSS the great son of India. They were all congressmen. They all have seen RSS. Their understanding about RSS is markedly different. So is the understanding of many in Congress party also today must be markedly different from that of Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
They've tried to draw, he's consistently tried to draw a binary. RSS's brand of Hindutva is the same as the Muslim Brotherhood of the Ummah or thought process of Ummah. Hitler talked about Nazism and nationalism. RSS talks about nationalism. So is it the same nationalism, Ram Madhavji? Is Hindutva or dreams of a Hindu Rashtra, talking of a Hindu Rashtra, the same as Muslim Brotherhood and the Ummah?
Now, first of all, as far as the Muslim Brotherhood comparison is concerned, this is an absolute nonsense. Rahul Gandhi, of course, in his intense hatred for RSS, is crossing that limit of basic understanding about what Muslim Brotherhood stands for all about. Muslim Brotherhood is the progenitor of organizations like Al Qaeda. It is the inspiration for many Islamic terror groups. Comparing it with an organization like the RSS in India it shows the intellectual bankruptcy of Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Other than that, these comments about Hindu Rashtra and all are okay. That has been their stand. Hindu Rashtra is fundamentalist for them. Hindu Rashtra they compared with Hitler's Nazism. This propaganda has been going on. It is utterly baseless. The whole idea of Hindu Rashtra is nation first ideology. India first, nation first. When we say nation, not just the political nation, but the cultural nation that existed for thousands of years in this country. That is what Hindu Rashtra is all about. It's about patriotism. It's about love of the country and love of its culture and its history and its civilization. And that for less intellectual people is beyond comprehension. That I don't mind. I mean, people can complain, people can make criticism of RSS. But the bigger point is to compare it with outfits like Muslim Brotherhood is utterly obnoxious, and we strongly condemn that kind of a comparison.
Has the RSS captured all the governmental functions and agencies?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Has the RSS captured all government functionaries and agencies?
So Rahul Gandhi's frustration comes out. He has undertaken that very great so-called Bharat Jodo Yatra. At the end of it, it turned out to be a damn squib when elections are held in 3 states in the Northeast. So there are no takers for Congress and its leadership's thinking of Rahul Gandhi, and for that he cannot blame RSS that RSS is taking over all institutions. RSS is a socio-cultural movement. Yes, its thought process today is the mainstream thought process of India. That is because 1 billion Indians like it, love it, and 1 billion Indians reject Rahul Gandhi's ideology. He should not question the intellect of 1 billion plus Indians in this country by saying that RSS is taking over the entire democratic edifice of this country. By making such statements, he is not actually criticizing the RSS. He is actually criticizing every Indian, or millions and millions of Indians who today stand by the thinking of the RSS, who stand by this country, who are supporting probably Prime Minister Modi and his government. So he's questioning the very intellect or very thinking of Indian people.
But have you ever been able to put a finger on why? Because you have friends across the political spectrum and many friends within the Congress party. So why does Mr. Rahul Gandhi love to hate the RSS so much?
No, first of all, Rahul Gandhi has a very peculiar sense of entitlement. He thinks that he is a very big intellectual leader, which he is not. I mean, he has had very interesting anecdotes about his intellect we all have seen. First of all, he thinks that he is a great intellectual, which he is not, number one. Number two, he thinks that he is much superior to all other leaders in the Congress party. You please don't forget how he treated Manmohan Singh when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister. Mr. Rahul Gandhi is a kid before Manmohan Singh. But you remember how he treated him. That scene of tearing off the papers of the then cabinet papers of the then government. So he has got that very arrogant kind of attitude. He is full of himself. I'm sure many in Congress party must be very uncomfortable with his utterances, because these utterances are a good fodder for the opposition. I mean, for Congress opposition, which is the ruling dispensation here. Why that question is only that sense of entitlement, and that sense of entitlement does not come from any hard work. He has not done any hard work. Okay, for the first time probably he has walked. They say he has walked for 4,000 kilometers, which is a lie. Of course, Rahul Gandhi lies through his teeth. He has not walked for 4,000 kilometers. The entire distance he travelled was 4,000 kilometers. He walked for some distance out of it. Out of that, he thinks that he is a very superior leader, but the country doesn't agree with him. So this comes from that sense of entitlement and arrogance, that Gandhian arrogance that he must shed if he wants to actually rise in Indian politics.
Very strong words coming from you, Ram Madhavji. My final question to you, is this individual opinion of Mr. Rahul Gandhi, or is he now part of a thought continuum that exists not just in India, but also beyond our shores in the West?
No, as far as the RSC, of course, during his 1-week visit to UK, to London, Mr. Rahul Gandhi made so many irresponsible and to some extent very defamatory statements about many things in India, about India's democracy, India's parliament, many things. Concerned people will respond to those statements. But as far as his statement on RSS is concerned, Mr. Rahul Gandhi faces a defamation case for his utterances against RSS. I haven't seen any Congress leader showing any sympathy for Rahul Gandhi in that case. He is fighting that case alone. That case is still going on in a court in Maharashtra. So whether Congress shares his thoughts, Congress has to come and clarify. Whether Congress agrees with all that rubbish that he spoke about Indian democracy at a time when half of the country is ruled by opposition governments. Out of the 22 223 big states in India. I'm not talking about smaller states, whether it's Goa or the northeastern smaller states. They are also important states. But of the big states in the country, 14 big states are controlled by the opposition party. Yet this gentleman goes out and tells the world that Indian democracy is in big danger. Because he is not being heard by people, because he is not being accepted by people, he should not think that the entire democracy is in danger. This is that attitude of entitlement. If I am not going to be accepted by people, then Indian democracy is to be questioned. People's wisdom is to be questioned. This attitude of Mr. Rahul Gandhi does not help him, and I'm sure it's not going to help even Congress party.
Final word. I know we are going to wind up a paucity of time, but is the RSS going to consider legal action, further legal action against Mr. Rahul Gandhi? And also, barring Sharad Pawar, none of the other opposition leaders have openly endorsed Mr. Gandhi's comments on foreign soil. They have said they will say their piece closer home.
Look, even Congress supporters who attended his programs in London, they themselves openly on camera advised him not to say talk such rubbish on a foreign soil. They gave examples of his own grandmother and all that. We all have seen. One gentleman who was a Congress supporter told him that your grandmother came. She never used such kind of a language against India. In fact, she said, no, I will not criticize my country in front of a foreign audience. But this gentleman lacks that basic sagacity. That's why I said that political sagacity this gentleman lacks. Now, as far as your main question about what will RSS do, you see, RSS as an organization, what it will do, we will decide. But individual RSS functionaries have filed some defamation cases earlier. But as an organization, RSS will respond, just as I responded, we will clarify what he is talking is how it is very far removed from the actual RSS activity and its understanding, its thought process. That will be clarified to the people. But I must tell you, Rahul Gandhi's views will probably be accepted by 1%, but RSS thinking, RSS views are shared by millions and millions of Indians. It is the mainstream thought process of this country today. That is what is actually very frustrating for Rahul Gandhi, and is going to town, not in India, but in London and other places, venting out his anguish and his, frustration.
Ram Madhavji, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. Moving on, and we've got big news coming through on the PFI front. The Hawala link emerges. Yes, it's a mega CNN News 18 exclusive. The National Investigation Agency has arrested 5 Hawala operatives in connection with the Fulwari Sharif case involving the now banned PFI. NIA investigations into the Fulwari Sharif PFI case of Bihar have led to the unearthing of a large network of Hawala operatives in South India and their arrest from Karnataka. A PFI funding by Hawala module operating out of Bihar and Karnataka with roots in the UAE has been busted with the arrests of 5 PFI operatives from Kasaragod in Kerala and also from Dakshin Kannada region in Karnataka. The 5 arrested today have been found to be actively involved in PFI's criminal conspiracy to move and channelize illicit funds procured from outside India for distribution among PFI leaders and cadre. PFI cadre in Fulwari Sharif and Motihari had vowed to continue PFI activities in a clandestine manner in Bihar and had also arranged a firearm and ammunition recently to eliminate a youth of a particular community in Bihar's East Champaran district, which could have triggered huge communal strife and riots there. Earlier in this case, 7 accused people have already been arrested when they had gathered in Fulwari Sharif area of Patna in July 2022 for training and to carry out acts of terror and violence. Dr. Vikram Singh, former IPS, is also with us. Vikram Singh ji, namaste. So the doubts about PFI's funding and its Hawala network now stand confirmed. Big revelation this, and these connections are to the east of our country, to the south of our country, and with the Gulf region.
RNG, it should not come as a surprise, but yes, it's a matter of tremendous satisfaction that the Hawala network has been uncovered. I, as IG Special Task Force and DGP Uttar Pradesh, have worked and ensured that how to not only keep a basic check It is not possible to eliminate the total Hawala operations. But yes, Hawala operations have been here since the 8th century and documented evidence from 1327. In this case, you would realize that there is no documentation, there is no hundi, there is no promissory note. And it is only by word of mouth and trust on the basis of Muslim traditions that exchange of money and transfer of money happens. It is very, it makes common sense and good sense. It makes economic sense because the commission rates are very low in comparison to the banks. The exchange rates are very low. And of course, the element of trust. I have interrogated many Hawala operators and have not come across a single case where a Hawala operator has defaulted. Therefore, it is something that time-tested mechanism, but indeed it is the favorite of terrorists, anti-social elements and criminals. That it is password generated and it is almost foolproof. Therefore, the investigating agencies, especially the NIA, the intelligence agencies, will have to work to eliminate and stamp out this menace of Hawala dealings. Hawala has no evidence. That is why it is the favorite. No records are kept. And those Hawaladars or the brokers or the people who run the Hawala network also happen to be either distant relations or close relations, part of a tribe or a community. Originating from the Middle East, you will understand that there is a proximity of certain people, certain organizations, certain communities to patronize the Hawala operations. That is why it is the favorite of anti-national elements, the terrorists, and the world over. North Africa, Middle East, Afghanistan, Somalia, and Pakistan, and also parts of India are indeed have Hawala network, and that is where the problem arises. The intelligence agencies will have to understand, and it is not rocket science. Anandji, those Hawala operators are known in public domain. It's a different matter that evidence is not conclusive evidence. Evidence is there, but conclusive evidence is not there. Therefore, all the more reason that they should work out and see that those who have lived on Hawala, on hearsay evidence, on 164 CRPC, and conclusive circumstantial evidence, they can be nailed, and we have done it in the past, we can do it now.
But this also points to the fact that there is clandestine operations of the PFI still continue. There are many who have now gone into the shadows and are operating from there, which is a greater concern.
Anandji, it is the standard modus operandi that they go underground when the heat is turned on. And this is exactly the case. When you banned the PFI, when the raids happened all across the country, the Hawala operators went underground and destroyed whatever rudimentary or the basic records that they had. It will be very difficult for the NIA or any intelligence agency to prove their guilt. But yes, there would be charges, there would also be approvers, and these approvers will be the game changers.
Dr. Vikram Singh, thank you very much for your time. That's the quick update coming through here on the PFI that the Hawala connection has now emerged. Our investigations editor Manoj Gupta getting us those details. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, something that's happening more than 10 to 12,000 kilometers away from us, but it could change our lives. It could really hurt us. The story out on News 18, I thought we should bring you the story about the Doomsday Glacier. The Thwaites Glacier, often known as the Doomsday Glacier, is on the edge of collapsing. As per new assessments, warm water is getting into the glacier's fractures and crevices more than half a kilometer below the surface, forming new canyons at a rate of 43 meters per year. So what is the Thwaites Glacier? Well, it's called the Doomsday Glacier because it is 120 kilometers wide at its widest point, fast moving and melting rapidly over time. Reports suggest that it contains enough water to increase the global sea level by more than half a meter due to its size. Every year, it releases billions of tons of ice into the ocean, amounting to nearly 4% of the yearly sea level increase. According to reports, the glacier melts at the seafloor, which has receded roughly 9 miles since the late 1990s. And this is a serious problem, ladies and gentlemen, because it has clearly increased the wider slice of ice comparatively ocean's warm water. So the Thwaites Glacier, what happens if the glacier collapses? The glacier, which is roughly the size of Gujarat, is on the edge of collapsing. It could cause catastrophic sea level rise. It's possible. And as per reports, the world sea levels could rise to as much, ocean levels could rise as much as far as 2 feet. The total collapse of the Thwaites might also devastate coastal cities around the world. And more than about 2 feet, a rise of 2 feet means how much of ingress would be made, you could see. A CNN report also suggests that it is going to have severe consequences by 2030, devastating coastal regions. There is a surge in coastal flooding in the US in mid-2030s that could occur. When glaciers melt, tectonic plates will diminish. And when tectonic plates diminish, Turkey, Syria quake are an example. That's what will happen. Now, how does it affect you and me? According to a report, the melting, rising sea levels caused by global warming are expected to have a severe consequence by 2030. Sitting 12,000 kilometers away, why should we in India worry? The sea level rising along the Indian coast is a much far faster rate. The rise in the Indian Ocean region is not uniform at all. Coastal towns are expected to be nearly 3 feet underwater. We know what the tsunami did to our coastal regions in the eastern coast. So now you can understand what 3 feet of water coming in, a rise could do. Mumbai, Chennai, Kochi, Vizag are all severely likely to be affected. Loss of 110 square kilometers of mangroves in the Sundarbans, that means yet another major ecological disaster is what we could see. So ladies and gentlemen, that's the reason why we need to seriously be conscious of our climate and global warming. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, a very, very engaging conversation with two researchers who are not just ahead of the curve, they are predicting huge challenges for Bharat. It's the war of the narratives, and are we waking up to it? Stay with us.
अब मोदी जी की विश्वसनीयता, उनकी लोकप्रियता दुनिया भर में बढ़ रही है, उनकी मांग बढ़ रही है. मोदी जी मेजर लीडर के रूप में दुनिया ने स्वीकारा है.
We're crossing over to CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh, who's our senior editor. Pallavi, can you take us through the war of words that's erupting yet again over Rahul's comments made in the United Kingdom?
So as far as Rahul Gandhi goes, and the Congress party is but naturally defending him, saying that what's wrong in what he's saying, because he's essentially showing the mirror and something which the world is very much aware of. So to sum up, in the last 3 to 4 lectures that he's already given, whether it's a university press conference addressing the Indian diaspora or even the British Parliament, he certainly has said that the institutions in our country are crumbling, democracy has been compromised, and anyone who raises a point or asks a question of the government is targeted. Either their mics are switched off, they're not allowed to speak inside Parliament, or there are cases which are applied against them. He gave he gave an instance of himself also, that there were multiple criminally liable cases which shouldn't have been filed, but they were filed against him. I think the BJP's reaction is on expected lines, and this is certainly something which they're going to build up till 2024, that Rahul Gandhi and the Congress represent that section of the political spectrum who always make a voice against the country. It's not just about the BJP that they're attacking, but they started questioning the mandate of the people who've given an overwhelming mandate to the BJP. And if you ask me, politically speaking, what is going to be the fallout? Well, I think this war of words is just going to escalate. Clearly, the Congress under Rahul Gandhi has made it very clear that in 2024, the electoral calling card would be that you have to have a free and fair democracy. And that's only possible if the BJP is ousted.
Absolutely. Pallavi, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us that crucial context in this story. Rahul Gandhi has once again targeted the central government on foreign soil. While addressing an in-conversation session at the Chatham House think tank in London, Rahul Gandhi has made a huge claim that the Bharatiya Janata Party likes to believe it will be in power in India eternally, and to say that the Congress is gone is a ridiculous idea. Rahul even attacked the central government for capturing all of the institutions. He said that the RSS is a fundamental fascist organization which has captured all of the institutions. Meanwhile, Union Minister Kiran Rijiju has hit back at Rahul Gandhi, reminding him about the 1975 emergency that was imposed by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. Rijiju said in India, democracy can't be overthrown. There was an attempt, however, in 1975 when an emergency was in force, but the constitution at that point had prevailed.
If you look at the time from independence to now, the Congress party has been in power for majority of the time, right? So it's not that the BJP has been in power. Before the BJP was in power for 10 years, we were in power for 10 years, right? And So it's not, I mean, the BJP likes to believe that they've come to power in India and they're going to be in power eternally. You know, that's not the case, right? One organization called the RSS, fundamentalist fascist organization, has basically captured pretty much all of India's institutions. RSS is you can call it a secret society. It's built along the lines of the Muslim Brotherhood. And the idea is to use the democratic contest to come to power and then subvert the democratic contest afterwards. The way the BJP responds, right? It's not interested in a conversation. They've decided that they know what's going on. Nobody else in the country understands what's going on. And that's it. And this is visible. I mean, you can ask any opposition party.
In India, democracy cannot be overthrown because Indians are inherently democratic. There was one attempt in 1975 when the emergency was imposed, but people of India resisted fiercely.
Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to yet another very, very engaging conversation. When you're sitting with people who are forever obsessed with the greater interest of Bharat, it always promises to be an engaging conversation. Well, he broke bounds when and opened our eyes with Breaking India 1, and then Snakes in the Ganga, Breaking India 2.0 came through. So we're in conversation yet again with Rajiv Malhotra Ji, and this time around the co-author Vijaya Ji has also decided to sit with us. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. And you people seem to be, namaste as I say, on a roll. They're one big book with 22 chapters, more than 225,000 words. That's Snakes in the Ganga. And after that come these four books, Varna, Jati and Caste. We have 10 heads of Ravana, The Power of Future Machines, and then of course the Battle for the IITs. So that's the fourth book. First, let me ask you, Rajiv Ji, how has Snakes in the Ganga done?
Well, first, thank you for having me, and namaste to all the viewers. So, Snakes in the Ganga has done exceptionally well. We've gone after the India tour where we were here with you. We went to Canada. We had huge following, 5 days, huge events, Bay Area, then New Jersey, and so on. So, it has taken traction. The traction is in India, it's with policymakers and also a lot of mass awareness. In the United States, the biggest traction has been with the IIT people and the Silicon Valley technocrats, because they feel they've woken up to the fact that they've been under attack and they didn't want to deal with it. You know how you duck and maybe it'll go away, but now you cannot avoid the problem, it's getting worse. So one of the sequels to the book, Snakes in the Ganga, is Battle for IIT. And the Battle for IITs, those guys are really waiting for it. It hasn't reached the US yet. It will in a matter of time. So that's been the reaction and the interest in helping us move this forward.
One of your abilities has been to preempt. So a lot of what you predicted ends up happening 4-5 years later. Do you believe more of Bharat is reactionary than proactive? So when you're a little ahead of the curve or a little ahead of times, Vijayaji, you tend to be met with, okay, you're saying it, but it's not happening around me right now.
Yeah, definitely Indians are very reactive, but the reaction time is getting shorter and shorter because we live in a global society and information travels fast. So one has to ask what these terms actually mean. You know, what is diversity? What is equity? What is inclusion? Because on the surface of it, it all sounds great and we are all for it. Nobody wants anybody to be discriminated, everybody wants everybody to be included, but is there reverse discrimination? Do we achieve diversity through active discrimination of what some people consider privileged classes or castes? So we have to ask these questions. So to go into the definitions of what these things mean, because Hindus are in peril right now.
Back to your earlier question you asked, Vijaya, on reactiveness. So I do want to say that the first Breaking India book, which is over a dozen years old, coined this idea of Afro-Dalits as a new identity which is shaping. And I've done this based on research in the United States that the church and the Marxists are promoting this idea that the Dalits are African brothers. And there is this Afro-Dalit bhai kind of a thing. And the Dalits are the blacks of India. This was an idea way back. And we wrote it in that book, but you know, people thought it's kind of, come on, that's not going to happen. It's sort of far-fetched. But that is at the heart of this new thing. There is the critical race theory, which is about blacks being oppressed by whites. That's an American context. We don't have any such thing of blacks and whites in India and racism and so on. But they've mapped the blacks as Dalits. So they've said Dalits are the blacks of India and the non-Dalits are the whites of India. So this Afro-Dalit idea, that's how proactive we were a dozen years ago. But now our people are reacting to it. And even as recently as a few months ago when we introduced Snakes in the Ganga, you know, the corporate sector, the Infosys of the world and a lot of these billionaires who are funding Harvard, funding this kind of wokeism, didn't take it seriously. But now it's going to come right at their doorstep. You will see these new laws being enacted in the United States, like when Seattle will, the Seattle law will be replicated in at least 100 cities in the United States within 12 months.
Wow.
And it's going to be in the EU. EU has a African Dalit movement group, and they are championing that. You will see it in World Bank. World Bank is now having training workshops from the same people in the United States who spread all this stuff. And the training is to give kind of knowledge about caste system in India, only singling out India, no other bias system elsewhere, like in China or elsewhere. And the purpose is to sensitize those who approve loans and financing to see if when they lend money somewhere, will it go to a casteist enterprise? Are there enough Dalits in the project before they give money? So now you'll see the international lending organizations will start putting caste requirements. This is so serious for India.
So how do we sort this? Because and why is this being allowed? Why are organizations also blinking? Organizations are also at a loss to explain why a certain person is a CEO. Was that person made CEO or head of the company based on their surname or their caste or jati or varna, or because of their ability or intelligence? So, like you said, isn't it reverse discrimination? Rajivji and then Vijayji.
Yeah. So basically the theory they're promoting is that you as an individual, so Anand as an individual is a nice guy and we have nothing against him that we can say. But he's born in a certain tradition, and by virtue of being born in that tradition, he gets benefits because that tradition, his ancestry are the ones who created structures. They created the IIT system, for example. That's the claim, that it was created by Brahmins to oppress Dalits. So even if you are not an oppressor individually, but you are born in the wrong system, if you will. So it's discrimination on grounds of your birth, which is very strange. So I am, I am a person born in a certain community, so I carry the baggage of whatever they may have done. And this is the argument that you as an individual may be okay, but by virtue of the identity and the caste or whatever, or now they brought it into religion. The minority religion is considered oppressed. Muslims are part of this oppressed lot. LGBTQ are part of the oppressed lot. So anyone who is sort of underprivileged in their eyes has a gripe against the majority, and the majority ends up as India as a nation state. So the whole thing is about castes and ultimately about India as a nation state. And this is how serious it is.
No, but why only single out India? Then in our country, then Muslims are not a minority. They are 20% of the population. That means the second largest majority. Minority should be other religious denominations like Parsis, so like Sikhs, like Jains, like Buddhists. Vijayaji. So who's building these narratives? So, and if they're so how do I say, pillared on fallacies, why is it not being broken?
It's very difficult to break it because the far left sociologists have come up with an entire system to address this. So caste is an easy weapon, and they also make it binary. They say the upper caste Brahmins and then there are the Dalits. And this is the only picture that's painted in the US. So the majority of the Hindus are considered upper caste, and then there's the 1% Dalits, on whom they have all these kinds of aggressions. Now, if you look at meritocracy itself, so they have redefined terms. So this is the beauty of the left. So when they say in the US, merit has an adjective called academic merit, as if there are other forms of merit, you know, when you're in a academic situation. So they say merit itself, the idea of merit itself is a patriarchal structure. The merit itself is a sham, because it's created by people of privilege, so that they and, you know, their offsprings do well. So they create a system that is biased based on the so-called merit, which sounds so virtuous, but it's actually not. Even though you give you have affirmative action or quotas, you know, giving equal opportunities to all, you know, even to the marginalized, but when they come out of the system, the outcome is different. And when the outcome is different, they don't care what the system is. They basically say, if the outcome of any system is different and there is variability, then the system itself is biased. We don't even want to analyze any further. So you have an educational institute that's producing, you know, kids that get first class or top the class, and the others who don't do it, and then they enter the job market. They say that is essentially because of bias. It's a structural issue, is what they're saying. So they are redefining words. So inclusion doesn't mean inclusion of everybody. Inclusion means excluding the privileged and thereby including the others. So it's not equal opportunity. So it is actually reverse discrimination. It is again looking at identities that the left considers valid. Some of them are synthetic identities like gender fluidity and things like that. So they will define which are the identities that need to be propped up and which are the identities that need to be cancelled.
But who is fueling this narrative, and why is India being targeted?
So,
what is the reason why?
So this is very interesting. The India is a target partly because our Dalits have gone there to merge with the underclass and the blacks and the oppressed and forge a unity. So the Indian left is into this, and also a lot of Muslim communities, the Muslim Association, the Indian American Muslim Association in the United States, they are all supporting this. So the left, the Muslims are supporting it, and the irony is that the Indian billionaires are funding it, which we talked about in the previous thing. They should stop funding it. This time when I go around the government, I ask people, have you checked with these billionaires since we talked last? It was a surprise to everybody, but now it shouldn't be. The answer I get is that billionaires are claiming they didn't know their name is being used for all this. But that's difficult to accept. I mean, if you are a Mahindra and you're going there every few months, you're living mostly overseas, and you're having these photo ops with the who's who in Harvard, you got to know what they're doing in your name. If you are a Lakshmi Mittal and the whole center is named after you and your family, you ought to know. If you are Mukesh Ambani, one of the worst professors in the entire world, who's targeting Hindus and Hindutva and Modi and the Indian government being a sham democracy, is a Professor Hanson at Stanford. Now his official title is Reliance Dhirubhai Ambani Professor at Harvard, at Stanford. So imagine how clear it is, and under that brand name, Mukesh Ambani's brand name, his father's name, this is the work being done. So these people have to be taken to task also.
There are two sides to the coin, and there is always a little bit of dirt in the container no matter how much you clean it, or how much I would say. Is this the majority? Is this the bulk of the money? Is it going towards this, or is this just a byproduct of the larger good that is actually happening? So is Ashoka University only focused on this just because you had a Hanson? I'm just playing, asking you the counter. Just because two professors were part of a particular event, did that event actually work? Did it actually dismantle Hindutva? It didn't. So there will be voices who would want to cry out like this. You have to allow them that space. And you cannot equate India and China, because China is very closed, state controlled. Their corporates have the state backing. India is an open market. It's democracy. There will be investments that will come in, and you are planning to set out and set up shop across the world. So you will have to somewhere
But
balance
look at Singapore
act,
though. Singapore had an MOU with Yale University, 2014 to 24. They were smart. They said a 10-year MOU, we'll try out liberal arts from Yale University. By 2020, they said none of this crap anymore. We do not want social sciences from the West, because it's making Singaporean society divisive. And they chopped off this, they said this connection, they said we don't want this anymore. Singapore's better off without a connection with Yale University.
So let's look at your question on Ashoka,
Yeah.
is it all bad? So they're not doing STEM. They're not a technocrat. They're not bringing advanced technology. So at least they're certainly not doing any good in that sense. So they claim to be liberal arts, social sciences. Now, all the social sciences taught in India are Western social sciences,
Yes.
without exception. When you study sociology, they start with all the European thinkers and all that. They don't have any Indian social thought, as if India never had a social thought. But we have had Dharma Shastras, we had Artha Shastras. There are a lot of Shastras in our tradition which talk about society and the values and morals and all of that. Even yoga talks about yam, niyam, these are all ethics. So there's plenty of material that you could create Indian social thought. But none of that is what's being taught. The professors are trained in places like Harvard, or their professors are trained in places like Harvard. So either they're directly or indirectly bringing that kind of ideology into India. So I would say the answer is yes. The vast majority of what they are teaching, whether it's history, whether it's social justice, human rights, gender studies, all these departments that they are teaching there are full of Western ideas and colonial ideas, postmodernist ideas, liberal left-wing ideas, and they're very proud of that. They in fact call themselves the Harvard of India. So they are doing that.
No, but if that is the case, are you going to blame the Harvards? Are you going to blame the corporates? Or are you going to blame the education system in our country, the governments, the NCERT, what are the textbooks that are being spread about? What's being spoken about? 9 years of this government.
Yes.
What has changed? So how
Good
much of a
point.
blame can you blame the corporates or the Western academia?
Absolutely.
If our own academia is pushing this?
Absolutely. In fact, we cannot blame others for ill-treating us if we ill-treat ourselves. If we don't have self-respect, if we haven't come up with our own curriculums to teach through our own drishti, our own lens, what we have to say about ourselves, how can we blame them for kind of bringing their lens to study us? So the vacuum of true, proper, social sciences discourse is an India problem. It's a problem within India. HRD ministry, culture ministry, none of them have done anything about it. And that's really the origin of the problem.
If that is the case, Vijayaji, aren't we ourselves at fault that we have not asked our own corporates to fund projects in our country which bring out our own core knowledge, social sciences from the India point of view? So how do I go back and say don't do this there, because they'll turn around and say there's nothing that's happening here?
No, they could fund, they could initiate projects, but of course when they associate themselves with the Harvards of the world, they do get clout, they get access to other billionaires, and they increase their network. This book Varna Jati Caste that we've put out is sort of a first step as a defense mechanism. We've given the history of Varna Jati Caste, what is the difference between Varna versus Jati versus caste. We also talk about, just think about it, the Indian social structure with all its problems produced the best diversity that the world ever had.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of food, in terms of culture, clothing, practices, worship,
Languages,
languages. Unparalleled diversity.
And sustained for thousands of years. And at a time where India was one of the largest economic powers. It had diversity, and there was no social problems where we had genocide and things like that. Of course, every system has its problems, and we had solutions as well that we came up.
Correct.
So that needs to be studied. Why, with all this talk of diversity, right? Why don't you look at what system actually produced diversity? There's no other system that produced diversity like how our system has.
Let's come to this book, The 10 Heads of Ravana. That is Rajiv Malhotra and Divya Reddy. You have edited it. So collaborations have happened. So Rajivji, why is it a critique of Hindu-phobic scholars? You very clearly call them Hindu-phobic scholars. So
yes.
Why so?
So, first of all, Ravan is a metaphor. He was a brilliant man, and all these are brilliant people. And the metaphor is that Ravan has been reincarnated as an intellectual. Okay, and so now he's got the 10 personalities. These 10 heads are not figurative. They are the 10 personas, and these are all these people like Ramachandra Guha and Kancha Ilaya and Devdutt Patnaik and Shashi Tharoor and many Americans like Wendy Doniger and Sheldon Pollock and so on. Now these are brilliant people, and in their own world they are very highly thought of, like Ravan was, have a lot of following, and so they're not stupid people. But the Hindu society considers them to be inimical to our interests. They are out there criticizing us. Like, for instance, take Shashi Tharoor. Shashi Tharoor's book, while it's called Why I'm a Hindu, it basically says I'm a Hindu, which to him means going inward and being mystical, but does not allow political action, does not allow social action. The outward part of Hinduism, he calls it Hindutva, and he rejects it. Now, the fallacy with that is the whole idea, what is Krishna teaching? He's teaching outward activism.
Correct.
The whole idea of Mahabharata is outward activism. In fact, military action is included. So if this were some new Hindutva invention to take political action and social action, then you'd have to negate the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, because the Ramayana is also like that. You'd have to negate the entire Dharma Shastras, the entire Artha Shastras, and you'd have to reduce Hindus to people who are just sitting quietly under the ceiling and afraid to give their identity and assert themselves. That would be self-defeating. So in that sense, even a smart, brilliant guy like Shashi Tharoor is acting against the interests of Hindu success in this world, which is a competitive world. And the Kurukshetra today is the global geopolitics is the Kurukshetra. And so we have to be, we should be encouraging people to be intellectual Kshatriyas, rather than sort of very docile and domesticated and afraid to speak out. So that's one example, but we have picked 10 of them. And these articles have been written by our young team. We are mentoring a young team of Infinity Foundation scholars. Each of them took one head of Ravana, and this project was started, it was incubated in Rishikesh just before COVID. And so during COVID, they've been working on this. Now they've been told, no disrespect, no hitting below the belt, no insulting to anybody. What you have to do is first read the person that you are going to critique, read all their works, highlight what you think is problematic, give proper references and quotations so that it's all authentic, and give your response. And all of this has been checked out, fact-checked, and reviewed by each other and by outsiders. So we're very proud of this book, and I think we invited all the 10 targets to come at this event and have a discussion, and none of them showed up. Some of them wrote some very insulting emails that given how great they are, how dare we criticize them? That sort of an attitude. And many of them just simply ignored it. But we've tried to open this conversation.
We don't cancel them.
We are not cancelling them. They're cancelling themselves. And the irony is that when they are talking about our point of view, like this Hindutva conference and anti-Hindutva conference, they never invited us. We try to get in, but we're not allowed. So when they are talking about us, we are cancelled. We're not allowed to speak. But when we are talking about them, we invited them.
So you are not only opening up a lot of fronts, not one but 10. Each of them are individuals who are brilliant, like you said, who've got a huge following, like you said, and they have established themselves in the academia, and you are opening yourself up to all of them. So you're also opening yourself to a lot of not just criticism, cancelling, but also ridicule. So why are you doing this?
I think the truth essentially shines. In social sciences, you have, the language is very dense and they have all these fluffy language, and so to go through all of that, right, is actually a cover, or, to show that they have academic rigor. That's a false sort of facade. Now, the people that have criticized these people are all basically STEM educated. There's an astrophysicist, there is a computer scientist, another engineer. And so we just look for truth and objective reality. I mean, we just look at, good rational ways to argue with these people. So it's a very, very good entertaining read, because it simplifies the scholarship, A, and number 2, it gives a response that, people with common sense can understand.
You're challenging a lot of bulwarks. You're also challenging a lot of established norms and thought processes. How has it been responded to so far? The IITs, are they open to this? Corporates, are they open to this? The government, policy makers, those who are trying to create a particular discourse about Bharat, are they open to this?
So let's take them one by one. So I would say that the scholars themselves have yet to kind of respond to us, so maybe they're going to respond in some way. The corporates are silent. corporates are silent, but we have heard through other sources, people who've approached them, that they are pretending or claiming that they didn't know too much about what's happening in their name. They just gave this money, and they have to now check it out. So at least they're going to become aware that there's public pressure, and they cannot just hide behind public pressure. As far as the government and other authorities are concerned, what I detect from my last trip, when they were not aware of all these things happening, to this trip, few months later, they are not only aware, but they are checking it out. They are trying to do some, trying to keep an eye on these things. So I think they have been woken up, and it remains to be seen how active they'll be. But we want them to be not reactive. I don't want to be coming back every 6 months and giving them the next dose. They have to be proactive. They have to have think tanks, and they don't have such a situation. And the gurus are sleeping. I mean, they are the keepers. They have the credibility, they have money, they have lakhs of followers, but they are just teaching their own little, very limited curriculum, and they're not going out of their shell because maybe they don't want to do anything controversial. So that's sort of how we are feeling.
Nobody wants to poke the bear.
No, that is correct. So, we are doing it. It's not popularity oriented. It's sort of like a seva that we are doing because somebody has to shake it up. And people say you're doing something controversial, and I say, if it is controversial because we are shaking up the established norms, that's a good controversy. Einstein was controversial because he overthrew the Newtonian laws of physics. Jesus Christ was very controversial. In fact, he was so controversial they killed him because he was an unarmed man, a peaceful man, but just because what he said was so provocative that they had to kill him. So he was a controversial guy. And Gandhi was very controversial. So provoking the established view, challenging it, is not a bad thing because the intentions are good. It's peaceful and it's for more intellectual discourse, and we're not harming anybody.
As long as it is based on fact and not rhetoric.
Right.
Yes.
And if the people can keep adding pressure, now we've done the initial work. If the listeners of this program, they start putting pressure from the Supreme Court Justice to the government departments to the corporations, that would keep the momentum going.
Always a pleasure speaking with the two of you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Yogi Adityanath says this is a message, an unambiguous, unequivocal one to the mafias, jinko mitti mein mila denge, whereas the opposition led by Akhilesh Yadav saying that this is simply extrajudicial killing.
When you say that this was a fixed match, the police didn't do and what it needed to do, obviously your allegation is that the present day government didn't do what it needed to do. But why do you believe that there is a fixed match? Why would the government let somebody like Amritpal run riot?
Russia is in a conflict. We are buying oil because it makes sense. But we are also telling Ukraine that we are with you. We'll help you. We're sending them aid. America is doing the same. It's upgrading the F-16s for the Pakistanis while calling India as a global strategic ally. So everybody knows how to play this game. So is India going to keep the focus on trade and economics?
Is the BJP fairly confident? I have covered the party and I know that they do not leave anything to chance, and 11 months is a long enough time for politics to change.
It's not interested in a conversation. They've decided that they know what's going on. Nobody else in the country understands what's going on. And that's it. And this is visible. I mean, you can ask any opposition party.
In India, democracy cannot be overthrown because Indians are inherently democratic. There was one attempt in 1975 when the emergency was imposed, but people of India resisted fiercely. And rule of law, the constitutional law prevailed again. Our government has tried from the day one to ensure that all those unreached people are reached. All those left out people are connected. Every part of our country citizen is a beneficiary of every welfare step taken by the government of India.
देश होली का त्योहार मना रहा है, राहुल गांधी जी विदेश यात्रा पर हैं। कोई त्योहार हो तो देश में नहीं विदेश में पाए जाते हैं, और विदेशी दोस्त हों, विदेशी एजेंसियां हो या विदेशी जमी हो, देश पर प्रहार करने से कहीं बाज नहीं आते। ये अपने आप में दिखाता है कि वो भारत को बदनाम करने में कहीं पीछे नहीं रह रहे। भ्रम फैलाना, झूठ बोलना, देश के बारे में देखिए आज दुनिया क्या कहती है। यहाँ पे इटली की प्रधानमंत्री आई तो उन्होंने आके कहा मोदी जी की विश्वसनीयता, उनकी लोकप्रियता दुनिया भर में बढ़ रही है, उनकी मांग बढ़ रही है। मोदी जी मेजर लीडर के रूप में दुनिया ने स्वीकारा है।
We're crossing over to CNN News 18's Pallavi Ghosh, who's our senior editor. Pallavi, can you take us through the war of words that's erupting yet again over Rahul's comments made in the United Kingdom?
So as far as Rahul Gandhi goes, and the Congress party is but naturally defending him, saying that what's wrong in what he's saying, because he's essentially showing the mirror and some.
Good evening, this is Rastak Samzaka Jacob. Rahul Gandhi is at it once again. He has said that democracy in India is dying, all institutions have been captured by the RSS, and even compared the RSS to the Muslim Brotherhood. The BJP is hit back by saying